You're watching Southern Crimes.
February 2nd, 2009. A cold morning on Albuquerque's West Mesa. Christine Ross heads out with her dog, Ruka, for their daily walk. The landscape is quiet, open desert where new housing was supposed to be built before the 2008 financial crash brought everything to a halt. Half-finished streets now dead-end into sand and silence. As they move across the scrubby terrain, Ruka runs ahead, sniffing, zigzagging, and then he stops. Something in the dirt has caught his attention. He starts to dig. Christine walks over, expecting to find the bones of an animal, but what she sees doesn't look right. The bone is large, too clean. It's been exposed by erosion, bleached by the sun. It looks human. She pulls out her phone and snaps a photo. She texts it to her sister, a registered nurse. The reply is instant. "That looks like a human femur. Call the police." By that afternoon, the landscape is unrecognizable. Yellow tape cordons off the area as crime scene investigators arrive. Forensic teams begin combing the ground, carefully removing layers of dirt. By nightfall, it's clear this isn't just one body, it's a mass grave. The remains of 11 women and an unborn child buried in shallow pits across the mesa. Bones left to bake in the desert for years, scattered beneath a silent sky. For a local detective named Ida Lopez, the discovery felt both shocking and familiar. She'd been keeping a list for years, names of missing women, mostly involved in drugs or sex work, who'd vanished from Albuquerque between 2001 and 2005, names few others seemed to care about. Now, her list had come alive. A killer had been operating in Albuquerque for years, hiding his victims in plain sight, just yards from suburban homes. Soon, the media would give him a name, the West Mesa Bone Collector. This is the true story of the West Mesa murders, a case that horrified a city, revealed years of institutional neglect, and left families searching for answers buried beneath the desert sand. This is Southern Crimes. The women buried in the West Mesa shared more than just a location. Most came from the margins, struggling with addiction, poverty, or survival sex work. But they weren't just statistics. Each one had a name, a story, and people who loved them. Monica Candelaria was 22 years old when she vanished in May 2003. Known for her quick laugh and radiant smile, Monica was a young mother trying to break free from addiction. Her family reported her missing just weeks after she disappeared, but the trail went cold almost immediately. Victoria Chavez, 26, was last seen in June 2003. Unlike the others, no one reported her missing until a year had passed. By then, she was likely already buried on the mesa. Selania Edwards stood out for several reasons. At just 15, she was the youngest victim and the only one who wasn't from New Mexico. A runaway from Lawton, Oklahoma, Selania had been seen in Aurora, Colorado, using the names Mimi and Chocolate. How she ended up in Albuquerque remains unknown. Doreen Marquez, 24, was a former cheerleader at West Mesa High School, located just a mile from where her body was found. Friends remember her as sharp, stylish, and full of life, but after her boyfriend was incarcerated, she began using drugs. She was last seen in October 2003 after dropping her child off at school. Veronica Romero, 28, disappeared on Valentine's Day 2004. A mother of 5, she was last seen getting into a white pickup truck in downtown Albuquerque. When the police didn't act quickly, her family organized their own searches. Cousins Jamie Barella, 15, and Evelyn Salazar, 27, vanished together in March 2004 after visiting family. They'd planned to go to a park near San Mateo in Gibson. Jamie had no known connections to drugs or sex work. It's likely she was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Virginia Cloven, 24, had been a bright student before tragedy struck. After her brother's murder, she spiraled into grief, ran away from home, and eventually became homeless. Her disappearance in April 2004 marked another devastating chapter for her family. Julie Nieto, 24, was a young mother fighting to stay clean for her son. She disappeared in July 2004, just days after visiting her grandfather. Her family says she would never have gone this long without contact unless something very serious was wrong. Cinnamon Elks, 32, was the oldest victim. Her last arrest was in July 2004. When she didn't call her family on her birthday that August, something she never missed, they knew something wasn't right. With a long history of arrests and a transient lifestyle, her disappearance was difficult to track. Michelle Valdez, 22, was 4 months pregnant when she disappeared in September 2004. Her unborn child became the 12th victim found on the mesa. Michelle dreamed of becoming a singer or a lawyer. Her family remembers her as someone who would have given the shirt off her back to help somebody else in need. As forensic teams identified the victims, a disturbing pattern emerged. Nearly all had struggled with addiction. Most had been involved in sex work. They'd all vanished from a small section of Albuquerque between 2001 and 2005. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the killing stopped. Why did the murders end, and what changed in 2006? The discovery of the burial site launched one of the largest and most complex crime scene investigations in New Mexico's history. For months, the quiet stretch of desert became a hive of activity as investigators raced to uncover the truth, one scoop of dirt at a time. More than 92 acres were searched. Crew members moved over 40,000 cubic yards of soil, sometimes digging as deep as 18 feet. Heavy machinery worked side by side with forensic experts using hand tools and fine mesh sifters. Cadaver dogs swept the site. Ground-penetrating radar and satellite images guided the search. Nothing was left to chance. But the desert had taken its toll. The victims had been buried for years, some for nearly a decade. Heat, sand, and time had stripped away almost everything. There were no clothes, no IDs, no personal effects, just bones. Without fingerprints or DNA, investigators turned to dental records and missing persons reports. Slowly, piece by piece, the names from Detective Ida Lopez's list began to match the remains found in the ground. Then came a breakthrough from space. Investigators reviewed satellite images of the mesa taken between 2003 and 2005. The photos revealed faint tire tracks leading to the burial site and patches of disturbed earth. As time went on, the number of those patches grew, marking what appeared to be new graves. The tire tracks traced back toward Albuquerque, but they ended in shadows. They didn't lead to a suspect, at least not yet. Compounding the mystery was a chilling fact. The killings appeared to stop in 2006. What had changed? Had the killer moved? Had they died, been arrested, or simply chosen a new method, perhaps a new dumping ground? And then there were the rumors, stories whispered long before the bones were found. Monica Candelaria's family had heard in 2003 that she'd been killed and buried on the mesa. Cinnamon Elks' mother was told a dirty cop had been targeting sex workers, killing them, and hiding their bodies in the desert. Michelle Valdez's family had heard the same. If people knew this back then, why hadn't anyone followed up? Detective Lopez had tried. By 2005, she'd already seen a pattern in the disappearances and requested a task force to investigate, but her concerns were brushed aside. The women, she was told, would turn up. They didn't. And by the time the city did start listening, it was too late. Evidence had been lost, leads had gone cold, the killer had vanished, leaving only bones, silence, and a 4-year head start. With the burial site fully uncovered and the victims identified, investigators turned their attention to the question that had haunted the case from the beginning. Who did this? Over time, a short list of suspects emerged, and while no one has ever been charged with the West Mesa murders, 2 names continue to surface. The first was Lorenzo Montoya, a man with a long history of violence towards women and a chilling proximity to the crime scene. He lived just 2 miles from the burial site and had been arrested multiple times for soliciting sex workers. In 1998, police caught him trying to drag a woman into his car at the end of a dead-end road. Officers believed he was minutes away from killing her. But the most damning incident happened in December 2006, just months after the killings appeared to stop. Montoya had hired a 19-year-old sex worker named Sharika Hill to come to his trailer. There, he strangled her. As he tried to load her body into his car, Hill's boyfriend arrived and shot Montoya dead. When police searched Montoya's home, they found disturbing footage, a recording that showed what appeared to be the aftermath of a sexual encounter, followed by the sound of duct tape being pulled from a roll and plastic bags rustling. Satellite imagery later revealed tire tracks leading to the burial site, tracks that appeared to point back towards Montoya's neighborhood. Still, there was a problem: no DNA. No physical evidence linking Montoya directly to the victims. Without it, police couldn't close the case. Then came Joseph Blea, a name already familiar to Albuquerque police. In the 1980s, he was known as the mid-school rapist, a predator who broke into the homes of 13 to 15-year-old girls living near McKinley Middle School. He was never caught at the time, but the pattern was clear. Years later, Blea's ex-wife contacted police. She told them he regularly visited sex workers and often spoke about them with anger and disdain. Under surveillance, police watched him cruise areas known for street prostitution, circling and observing the women closely. When investigators searched his home, they found stashes of women's underwear and jewelry, none of it belonging to his wife or daughter. And then came a strange clue, a tree tag, used to mark nursery plants found buried with one of the West Mesa victims. The same nursery had once done business with Blea. In 2015, DNA connected Blea to multiple sexual assaults from the 1980s. He was convicted and sentenced to 90 years in prison. While incarcerated, he reportedly discussed the West Mesa victims with a cellmate, referencing their names and claiming to have paid some of them for sex. But again, nothing directly tied him to the burial site. No DNA, no confession. Other names floated in and out of the investigation. Fred Reynolds, a local pimp who knew several of the victims, had reportedly been asking questions about their disappearances. He died of natural causes in January 2009, just weeks before the bones were found. Ron Irwin, a photographer from Missouri, came under brief scrutiny after police found disturbing images in his possession. but after further investigation, he was cleared. Despite years of work and more than 1,500 tips, investigators still don't have enough to charge anyone. In 2025, Albuquerque police continue to push for legislative changes, specifically the ability to test DNA from deceased felony suspects like Montoya against evidence from unsolved cases. It's possible that just a single sample could confirm what many investigators already suspect. But until then, the West Mesa killer remains unnamed. "16 years have passed since the first bones surfaced on the West Mesa, and still no arrests, no charges, no justice. A $100,000 reward remains unclaimed. For the families, time hasn't healed much. It's only made the silence harder to bear." Jane Peria, whose daughter Jamie Barella and niece Evelyn Salazar were among the victims, says she's still waiting for answers. "They don't even contact us. Nothing. Whatever I hear through the grapevine." The frustration is familiar to many of the families, especially those whose loved ones lived on the margins. 10 of the 11 women had histories of addiction or sex work, factors that likely contributed to the lack of urgency when they first went missing. "They just threw them out there like nobody cares. It doesn't matter what they were doing. They were human beings. Somebody's daughter, somebody's auntie." In many ways, the West Mesa cases became a reckoning, not just for Albuquerque, but for how society treats missing persons, especially women seen as disposable. Detective Ida Lopez had tried to raise the alarm years earlier. She recognized the pattern, but her warnings were dismissed, her list of names ignored. Now, her work is considered foundational. She continues to assist the cold case unit and still believes the killer can be found. "We have persons of interest. We're not done. I don't want people assuming this case is over, because we're still following leads." Police have also identified 8 additional women who went missing between 2003 and 2006. All of them could be connected to the same killer. Anna Love Vigil, Felipa Victoria Gonzalez, Nina Brenda Heron, Jillian Elizabeth Henderson Ortiz, Chantel Monique Waits, Leah Rochelle Peebles, Vanessa Reed, Darlene Marie Trujillo. None of them have been found. In the wake of the murders, community advocates formed Safe Streets of New Mexico, an organization that tracks and monitors sex workers to ensure their safety. The goal is simple: no more disappearances that go unnoticed. In 2020, a community park was opened at the site where the bodies were found. Each victim's name is etched into a path that winds through the space. Families chose benches and trees for their loved ones, small symbols of remembrance on the ground where they were hidden for years. The park is quiet, peaceful, but it's heavy. The West Mesa murders remain one of the Southwest's most haunting unsolved crimes, a case that exposed institutional failures, devastated families, and left a serial killer's trail buried beneath the sand. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desert, one question remains. Will justice ever come for the women buried on the mesa? Or will the bone collector's name, like so many of his victims, remain lost to time? If you have information about the West Mesa murders, contact the Albuquerque Police Department at 505-768-2450 or Crime Stoppers anonymously at 505-843-STOP.